Oh, oh. Oh, shit, son. Bang. Look at this guy. Look at this guy. I think he wants to lick the paint job. I'm not even mad. Hey guys, my name is X Factor. Hopefully you're having a great day, and I apologize if I sound a little off. I'm not feeling the best, dealing with asthma and man flu, so apologies in advance. When it comes to Battlefield 1, there's been a few things that have surprised me, including this. I finally got the gold paint job, the legendary for the heavy tank, along with my player time in the game. Believe it or not, 80% of my time in Battlefield 1 is boots on the ground as infantry. 20% is vehicle. Of that 20%, 11% is flying in the skies. Now, granted, I have done a little bit of bombing. I enjoy that, gunning for bombers. But mostly, I fly attack and fighter planes. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I've worked on becoming a better teammate and pilot. Yes, I still hit trees and flags and everything else, but less so. I do focus on dropping flares and strafing flags or people attacking flags in clumps, like a good little pilot should, much like a good tanker should. Awareness, stopping pushes, starting pushes, capping, and defending flags. That's the key, map control. It's been a long time since we've featured any sort of vehicle gameplay. Again, I just don't do it as much in the Battlefield franchise. In Battlefield 4, I lived, eat, and breathed attack boats, tanks, LAVs. I had a blast in it. Battlefield 3, much the same with the tanks and, of course, the LAV. In Bad Company 2, not as much. I just simply don't enjoy the tanks as much in Battlefield 1 because the heavy tank has very little mobility, but it is a walking fortress. If you got somebody on your side, you really need to play the angle guide. Remember, there are reflections where you can minimize and mitigate people's damage, or you gotta hope that your gunners have an angle and they're paying attention. Not to mention, it's about ammo management, then of course using your smoke to repair, and sometimes you use your smoke, you'll see me, to cover certain pushes, but the last thing you want to do is pop your smoke and repair right where you were, and just like that, I was interrupted. So we're actually going to go over some tank tips because we haven't done this in a very long time. Remember, if you're anti-tank, I don't see enough snipers rocking K-bolts. Can't tell you how many hundreds of vehicles I've killed with K-bolts. They can do quite a bit of damage, 5 to 8 on the heavy tank, but it interrupts the repair cycle. Remember, these have a lengthy repair cycle. What about a frag grenade? What about an impact grenade? What about anything that damages armor? Yep. Throw it. Throw it often. And if you see people dump trucking damage, maybe you wait a split second so they can't start the repair cycle, or you interrupt them as they're halfway through. Remember, there is a slight pause before they can start interrupting again. The power of the anti-tank is obviously assault. Only takes a couple assault to dump truck a heavy tank. You guys have seen it a ton on my live stream. Heavy tank overextends its push by a few feet, doesn't have the help of the infantry, and down it goes, only to wait for the respawn timer again. So we get a repair off there, and we're back into it. So what's going to happen here, we're going to have nice control with 4 to 5 flags, but we're going to cough up the fortress, and that's okay. On this map, a lot of people focus on the fortress. It's a blast to fight in, but it can often cost you the map because once you get it, it takes a ton of assets to get it. Everybody spawns there, they grab sniper, and they're doing their best camper impersonations, trying to shoot people across the map. So, as cool as it is to fight there, it often costs you the map, but it makes B really hard to push, because you're getting squeezed from both sides. If they have the fortress, both flags, if they have B, and of course they have A. It's really important to maintain C and D, because if they got D, they're shooting into C like it's fish in the barrel. You see tanks do that a lot, killing people pushing the C objective. Very effective. I've said it once, I've said it a million times. Tanks are only as strong as the infantry around them. So keep that in mind, especially if you're in a heavy tank and you're not rocking full gunners. Another thing you could do if you're getting shot at a ton, if the topography is a little rough, sit your tank still. Figure out what's picking at you, AT rockets, give them a nasty angle. Don't look at them straight ahead. Give them about a 30 or 35 degree angle so that AT rocket isn't hitting double digits. It's not hitting for 15 to 17. You can get it all the way down to 2 or 1 if it's one guy shooting at you. Remember, he's got a reload cycle. There's another guy, wiggle it his way as well. The heavy tank's downside is its mobility. And of course, your limited turret range. So be very, very careful with your positioning, because one bad decision or overextending and you will simply be toast, especially if you get your gunners disabled. Pay attention. It's highlighted in red on your vehicle. Your gun can't go down, but each side can, and the back. And the back gun is absolutely nasty. If you're in trouble, don't be afraid. If you got a good gunner in the back, they can absolutely tear people up. So here I'm going to talk about ammo management. We are burning B. Now remember, whenever you're carrying people around in your tank, that is helping your ratio. You really have to pick and choose your fights. I've got 2, spamming reload as always, going back to 3, trying to work repair after I pop smoke and move from that spot. But this is a hot spot. Not the best spot to repair, especially if you don't have C. If you don't have the fortress, I would never recommend repairing there unless you have some help. So sometimes the best thing you do, going back to that ammo, is back up. Get a full 6 as I snipe somebody from their uncap. And of course, working on a few scope glints in this building, which we'll come back to in a bit. Don't be afraid to back up. If you think there's armor in play, if you think there's something moving up on you, just reload fully. Especially if you already had a high ammo count. If you've already got 3 or 4. Buy yourself a few seconds, especially if infantry are pushed up. Remember, they've got to kill that infantry too. Another rule of thumb when it comes to operations or conquest, if your team is getting smashed, do not pull a light tank or artillery on offense, as you see me almost one-banging my golden baby. Do yourself and your team a favor. Pull a land ship, pull a heavy tank. Number 1, it's a spawn point. Remember, DICE patched it. Now any teammate can spawn on the land ship and, of course, a heavy tank, no matter where it's at. So it could be a forward spawn point, or it could be a much-needed spawn point when you're going for the bat cap. Of course, the primary pick for light tank is flanker right now. Any heavy tank, or, of course, land ship that's paying attention, will absolutely tear up any sort of flanker, which really can't have much of a momentum and offensive push unless they've got massive infantry. Once you weed out that infantry, flankers can be soloed by 1 assault player or even a couple snipers that can hit for double digits with the K bullets, depending on where you're hitting the flanker. If it's in the top turret or if it's in the treads, you can really do work. So if you see a flanker, make sure you absolutely destroy it. Or light tank, because they wasted their team spawn. At no point in time, if you're alone, 1v1, you've got ammo, you shouldn't lose that battle. The next thing is don't kill that tank, whether you're infantry or not. So many tankers right now are scared to die. They're so worried about their KD, they're gonna die. They're also gonna give up the tank. I messed up. I didn't mean to hit him, but of course that's a threatening person there. I don't want them to spawn bomb me. So here's what happens if that tank stays neutral.
That's an enemy machine gun.
It hasn't started the respawn timer. Maybe we find their kit. Maybe we steal it. Maybe you have somebody spawn in with the wrench it up, and get back into bad boy. And rumor has it, if you spawn in with a wrench, whether you're a pilot or not, you can actually use the tank's abilities. Remember, if you're not a pilot or gunner and you just jump in that thing, you don't have the tank's abilities. But there is a rumor that if you do have a repair tool and you jump in it, you will have that tank's abilities. So it's really important to find the kit. It's really important to wrench it up and keep it out of their hands. Remember, if you jump in a tank, be man enough to go down with the shit, because you're more than likely going to ruin your team. If your team's already taking a beating, the beating just got worse. So keep that in mind. And of course, we decided to push A because we didn't have the majority of flags. They had the fortress. We only had 3, and they're slowly starting to catch up. So the name of the game is stay ahead of them on flag caps. Let the game mode do the work for you when it comes to gaining tickets in your race towards 1,000. And I think that's the first person I've roll killed with the Golden Camo. And look how this thing takes damage. It's actually pretty cool. The gold paint actually flakes off as I'm getting shot by HMGs and, of course, AT grenades and rockets and everything else. But at the end, I get a little help. Some people actually jump out and start repping me as I've blown through my last second repair, which, of course, was adjusted and nerfed the last patch. Still pretty darn strong, though, as long as you save it for the right moments. And we're already back up to 75 health, capping B. So if they want a Zerga point, give it to them. Take everything else. That's the name of the game in Conquest. And pay attention to your back caps. Too many people in Conquest right now are just pushing forward nonstop. They might get that last flag, but they don't have anything behind them near their deployment. So keep that in mind when you're playing Battlefield 1. Pay attention to those back caps. Spawn into flashing flags. That can make the biggest difference and give you a bigger chance for a W. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you soon.